All right, so in this lesson, we talked about 3 different units for temperature we can use: Fahrenheit, Celsius, and Kelvin. And so the 2 formulas that we're going to be using are the following. My temperature in Fahrenheit equals 1.8 times my temperature in Celsius plus 32. That's one formula. And the other formula I'm going to use is my temperature in Kelvin equals my temperature in Celsius plus 273. Okay, so let's look at the first problem. 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius. Well, that's my normal body temperature, okay? So I'm going to be using, because I'm going from Fahrenheit to Celsius, I'm going to use the formula Fahrenheit equals 1.8 times temperature in Celsius plus 32. So I'm going to plug in my values. 98.6 equals 1.8 times my temperature in Celsius plus 32. So what I'm going to do mathematically, I'm going to take 98.6, subtract 32 from that, and then divide by 1.8. Okay? And so what I get is 37 degrees Celsius. Now I need to check for my rounding. Keep in mind 98.6 minus 32, and then I divided by 1.8. So the last step I did was division. So I should be rounding based on the fewest number of sig figs, which in this case is 1.8, which has 2 sig figs. So 37 is my rounded value. Let's look at the next problem. Here I have Kelvin and I want to go to Celsius. So I'm going to use my Kelvin formula. Kelvin equals Celsius plus 273. Okay, so I'm going to plug in my temperature in Kelvin, 243. I'm going to set that equal to my temperature in Celsius plus 273. And so I'm going to end up subtracting 243 by 273. And so the temperature that I get is negative 30. Now I have to be careful because I'm subtracting, so I want to have no decimal places. So instead of just writing negative 30, because I don't want to just have one sig fig, because then I'm oversimplifying this value and undermining its accuracy. I am certain of the 3 and I'm estimating the 0. So I want to have 2 sig figs here by putting a decimal. The only reason why it's negative 30 is because I want no decimal places. So negative 30, but I don't want to get rid of this 0 as being significant. So it's negative 30 degrees Celsius. Okay. For the last problem, I'm in Fahrenheit and I want to get into Kelvin. So this is going to be a 2-step problem. First, I have to get out of Fahrenheit. So I'm going to use my Fahrenheit formula, 1.8 times my temperature in Celsius plus 32. Okay. I'm going to plug in my temperature in Fahrenheit. So my temperature in Fahrenheit is 72 equals 1.8 times my temperature in Celsius plus 32. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 72 minus 32 and divide by 1.8. And the value I get for my temperature in Celsius is 22, it's a repeating number, but 22.22, I'm going to say, degrees Celsius. Okay. Now, that's my temperature in Celsius. That's great, but I don't want to be in Celsius. I want to be in Kelvin. So I've got one last step. I'm going to take my temperature in Kelvin. And I say, okay, I know that my temperature in Celsius is 22.22. And I'm just going to round that because it keeps going. Okay. I'm going to add to that 273. Okay. So the answer I get for that is 295.222222 Kelvin. Okay. However, because the last step that I did was addition, right? 22.22 has at least 2 decimal places. 273 has no decimal places. So I'm going to round this so that it has no decimal places. So this would just round to 295. And my units are going to be Kelvin.